Welcome to Leaseweb Tech Talk, the podcast exploring tech landscape, cloud hosting, and IT infrastructure. Whether you're a professional or new to tech, Leaseweb Tech Talk got you covered. Join us for latest trend, business cases, insightful interviews, and useful tips. Hello everyone, welcome to Leaseweb Tech Talk. Today with me, I have Edwin, CTO of Veeam. In a second, Edwin will have the floor to introduce himself. So Edwin, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Oh, thank you very much for having me here. So Edwin, I'm the field CTO for EMEA for Veeam. Been with Veeam for 8 years, specialized in cybersecurity. So some people will know me as an explorer, but other people will say that's a hacker. So let's start from there.
Great. So today we are going to speak with Edwin about building data resilience, and we're going to speak about data security, backup, and please provide tips and tricks to the business people and our listener how they can secure their data in this digital transformation. So Edwin, in recent year, this whole backup and security has become a big topic. So how do you see it, how it has shaped the whole data resilience in business?
Yeah, and then we have to step back in time. You can see the gray hair. So I can go back really far, but let's go back for like 10 years. Backup was like table stakes. You need a backup, but everyone's like, yeah, we have a backup somewhere. Do you test the backup? No. Sometimes we do a restore and it worked or it didn't. But now if you see with all the cyber attacks going on, you'll see that it elevated from like being in the basement, so that was normally where the backup team is, into data resilience.
Okay.
We have to bounce back.
Yeah.
Do a restore, but not do a restore for that just one item. No, if you're coming in on Monday morning, see a red screen screaming at you like, put in bitcoins, all of a sudden you have to do a full blowback of all your data.
Yeah.
We didn't anticipate on that one 10 years ago. So you have seen that the industry shaped and changed a lot in that part, especially going from like backup as table stakes into being the one that's getting your business back on your feet, being resilient.
Okay, and in your opinion, and because you are so long in the industry, what are the current biggest shift you see in the backup and disaster recovery sector?
In the past, we had it easy. We had everything in one data center or in the closet. Some people had it in the closet, opened the closet and was like, hey, this is our data center. No, so data center was more with a company. It was some part in the building, everyone had their own data center. Then you saw that shift like, hold on, that's not really our core business, so maybe we should move it out. But also data started sprawling. So we had data first only on site, and we started doing software as a service. Going into the cloud, having different platforms from like client server to virtualization to cloud to Kubernetes containers and more coming. But it means that data is sprawled all over the place. And now you need to take a backup, and looking at the backup admin, and I don't envy them because they have to get that data from all those places in a secure location now. And that's where we moved from like in the last 10 years only.
Yeah. So as we're referring a lot into past and all the shifts, if you can tell a little bit of the history, how these people really anticipated backup and the disaster recovery and the whole cybersecurity, how did it came? Like if you can highlight a little bit into the history.
The history itself, but that's where the value of data became into play. If you look in history, the value wasn't really there at that moment in time because we're still doing like a legacy, pen and paper.
Yeah.
But if you look at how business is operating now, it's all digital. If we go into like a bank and we don't have our card with us, with our PIN code, we discussed before, you can't get access to your money.
Yep.
We now have an app to look daily in our bank account. Before, you had to go to the bank and ask them, okay, what's on my bank account? And a lot of people will say, hold on, that's like ages ago. It wasn't. Because only like a few years ago, we still had a lot of things going through paper. We even got like a fax request 2 years ago. It's like, fax, we don't have a fax anymore. And there was a really big hyperscaler that asked us for a fax to include something in the marketplace. I was like, okay. But that's where you see that we get used to it. So businesses operate on data. That's the fuel through any organizations. If you don't have access to your data, it becomes really nasty within a few hours. Before, we could survive days without having access to that particular data. We just go open a cupboard, get some paper out. We know what we had to do. People have to move, so that was the whole digital transformation.
Yeah.
Making sure that we move from legacy into like digital.
Yeah.
So we started scanning a lot of documents, and a lot of government bodies are still not done. They only scanned the digital or the paper trail till like 2000. They have a paper trail till like 1960, so they have still 40 years to go.
Yeah.
But being reliant on that digital trace and also using the data means that you also have a different means and requirements for backup. Because now you have to back up everything, and the data is like doubling every year.
Yep.
That makes an extra. It's sprawling, but also the value of the data skyrocketed. That's also why you see those attacks, because of the where do robbers go? Where the money is, and the money now is in digital, in data.
Exactly. Market is oversaturated because you tapped into market, and market is oversaturated because everyone would have some services that will claim that, oh, this secures your business, this secures your data. So how can a business choose the right approach or the right service in the market? What should be the best approach for a business?
For the business, first understand what is your data. And that's the hard one. And I know what I'm saying there. A lot of people are like, yeah, you're crazy. Yeah, I'm crazy in that one. But by understanding your data, you also start to know, okay, how are my people using the data? How are the processes beneath that?
You mean internally?
Internally.
Yep.
And then you will come to, okay, we have that data. How should we back up it? But not just backup, because backup is table stakes. It's about restore, getting back, being resilient, so getting that data back if something happens. And then they have to go back to their business. Okay, how long can we stay without data access? How long can we stay without having services online to our customers? When are customers being ignored or even moving on? If you open a website and it doesn't respond the first time, you will try again. But how long will you wait until you say, okay, I will go to the competition?
Yeah.
And that's the point. So looking at how you select a backup, like a service or do it yourself. So you have different flavors in that one. So that's also why they need to know how is their business built. What do they anticipate on the backup? Just plain backup.
Yeah.
And then the restore from it. So just selecting backup isn't enough anymore. You have to really go into, okay, how can I restore? And then you get another question, are you going to do it yourself? Are you going to do it with a partner? Are you going to a vendor? Do you software as a service? As you see, you already have 4 flavors on the table.
Exactly. As we say, we grew up hearing prevention is the cure. So backup is not the only solution. You also have to make sure your data is secure, you don't get attacked, and you also need to have a disaster recovery. So how can business ensure those prevention too?
Yeah, I would even go up the chain there. Go to business continuity first.
Okay.
About the whole business, because we rely now on data. The whole business relies on data. So that should be part of business continuity. But business continuity is not disaster recovery.
Okay.
That's different, because business continuity is looking at the whole organization, and there could be a strike, there could be something else, has nothing to do with a disaster recovery. But as soon as we talk about digital, somehow people forget everything they learned in like the physical world, and it's like magic, everything just happens automatically, and also the bad things happen automatically. But that's where organizations really have to think, okay, what's our business continuity plan? How do we survive outages? How do we survive unplanned things? And then you will come to a big one, because if we look, we normally do a survey from Veeam about how the market is going. And one of them is the Data Protection Trends Report. And one key finding in there is, for the 4th year in a row, cybersecurity was the one that's having the most impact, but also the one that's most intrusive in the process itself. So yeah, that's why you see a lot of focus in the market around us about ransomware attacks, cyber attacks. And by looking at those cyber attacks, you have a different approach. Then you come into disaster recovery. It's also part of business continuity because it's disrupting your business in a big scale.
Yeah.
But then you have to come back from a disaster. And a disaster is a crisis, and managing that crisis means that you have to go through different steps to come back. But that also is the requirement for selecting, okay, are you going to do it yourself? Do you need some help maybe? Maybe put it somewhere else instead of in that infrastructure. And I've seen too many cases. I do reviews for like business continuity and disaster recovery plans or incident response plans, as we say. They will just call me like, can you ship back that document I sent you? Why? I just got it for 2 days. I'm not finished yet. Yeah, but you have the only living copy. What happened is the whole infrastructure got ransomed and encrypted. That means that, okay, hold on, you have the disaster recovery or business continuity plan, incident response plan tied to it on that same infrastructure you're trying to protect. That's not really helping.
Yeah.
So that's why I always say, think about maybe putting it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Asking for help, because it's a crisis mode. You need more people to manage that.
I'm curious, can a disaster recovery be 100% recovered?
No.
Okay.
Let's blow that myth straight out of the water. If you look also through those surveys, we have seen like 46% is completely lost.
Yeah.
Because people have to prepare. And if you look at those disasters, you have to do a disaster recovery. And from backup, you have 4 options. Let's zoom into like ransomware.
Okay.
Ransomware, you have 4 options. One is do recovery. Hopefully your backup is good, you tested it, and you can recover from it, and you have a 100% success rate. That would be fabulous.
Okay.
But it's also a little bit of utopia, because we have seen in the market that even the really big ones managed to get like 92% back, and 8% was like, okay, we have some other options. The second option is rebuilding your data. So not going back from a backup, because A, it could be too expensive, or B, could be the time consumed in that. So doing a restore is longer than rebuilding the data. And the third option in that one is saying goodbye to data. Normally on stage, like 10 years ago, I could just say, anyone that wants to lose some data, if you have like an RPO and RTO, so recovery point objective or recovery time objective, it's like how much data do you want to lose and how long can your service be down? I'm not even mentioning that on stage anymore because they will lynch me if you lose data. Sorry, but yeah, it's still an option on the table. You can say, maybe that data wasn't that valuable for the company, so we say goodbye and we restart from scratch. It's a nice clean environment, but... And the fourth option, and a lot of people will say, oh, hold on, paying a ransom is a fourth option. Yes, it's still that option on the table, because if those other 3 I mentioned are not good enough or are not already in play, that means you only have one option, and that's pay the ransom.
But paying the ransom, does it guarantee that the attackers will give you all the data back?
No. Hopefully you have a good hacker.
Ethical one?
No, not even ethical one, but that one that's in business for business. That's also, I help organizations when they have been hit by ransomware, and it's not about the technology behind it, it's about communication, it's about managing expectations.
Yeah.
And especially also with the hacker, finding out who's the attacker. Is it a known attacker? What's their purpose? Is the purpose to make money? Most likely you will get your data back. Can also be a disgruntled employee you just fired 2 weeks ago. Most likely you will not get your data back, even if you pay. But that's the whole point about thinking, before you go to option 4, have those other 3 options on the table. But if you have to go to paying the ransom, think about, okay, who's the party in play? There's also, if you look at Veeam, we bought Coveware beginning of this year, and everyone asked me like, what the hell are you doing? You're buying an incident response company. You're backup and recovery. Yeah, that's true. But we're also expanding there because of data resilience. And by helping from like the beginning, manage that whole process, because if you go to companies, and you also work with companies, enterprise companies worldwide, ask them, do you have like a Bitcoin wallet somewhere laying around? Most they will say like, no. And what happens is they will go and they have to pay a ransom. They go, let's buy Bitcoins. Yeah, right. Let's buy Bitcoins. You know what's going to happen? They go to the bank and they say, can you please wire this amount to that Bitcoin? And the bank's like, oh, suspicious activity, shut down the account. And all of a sudden you have ransomware on that hand, another one, the bank says, no, suspicious activity, we shut down your account.
Yeah.
But that's managing those expectations. So getting your data back is really reliant on who's attacking you, what's the purpose behind it, but also hackers also make mistakes. They use code that has been bought online or being crafted through like AI, ChatGPT. There are some guardrails now, but yeah, normally they can do that. And they make mistakes. So that encryption that was going through your environment, you get a key to decrypt, but does it work? You don't know. Sometimes they also don't know.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, sorry, we screwed up, sorry. And that's the reality we see nowadays, because it's a business, and if it's a business, they try to really get your data back, but also think about recovering, because they encrypt with all the resources in your environment, so that could be in 20 minutes and the whole environment is completely encrypted. But recovery, you get the tool, this with like one CPU, 4 gigs of RAM. That takes like 28 days just to recover one machine. So instead of 20 minutes, like 28 days, maybe a backup and recovery is much faster than doing decryption there. So that's what you have to think about. But yeah, getting your data back, it's always a gamble.
Okay, I see that. So that brings me to a question that when a business is deciding on backup infrastructure or about the business continuity, what is the best option? Building it or buying it?
I would say go for the hybrid option, but depending on your business. It's really depending on your business. If you already said goodbye to your own data centers and moved on and put it to like a lease data center or like partners like Leaseweb, why should you do it yourself? That's kind of the point. Always think about, can I do it cheaper and better? Or should I just hire some professionals that are really into this? And then it's more by putting it to partners, because also if you have like a ransomware on your hands, it's a crisis, you need experts there.
Yep.
And it's easier to call like a Leaseweb than, for instance, call Microsoft or AWS. It's nice to have them in like a hyperscaler, but try to phone them. It's kind of challenging.
Okay. Is building expensive than buying it?
No, I think money-wise, the like buying the technology, buying the software, buying the hardware, it's like the small value on like the scale. It's more about having everything around it, the services, operating it, getting skilled people, making sure that they are educated, that they are still on top of their game.
Yeah.
Keeping them also on top of their game for like the next 5 years. I think that's the most challenging part. And that's also where the most money is involved. Not in buying a particular solution. It's more about everything around it.
And as you mentioned a few times, that assessing the need and assessing what you have in the company, how can a business do good audit on what they need, like what steps they can follow? So if you can like reflect some light or shed some light on that for the audience, it would be great.
Yeah, there are different frameworks out there that can really help you for like security.
Okay.
If you really want to go for like business continuity, look through your organization first. But most likely you will tap into digital fast in business continuity. Then you really have to think about, okay, how I'm going to have my staff operate in a crisis mode. Business continuity is always going to be in a crisis mode there. Then you will start from there into disaster recovery. Think about what we have now for like inside the building, like here. We have like emergency workers. If there's a fire or an emergency, we will be guided out, right? If you look through organizations now, only like a really small percentage has like digital emergency workers on staff. So if something happens and all of the screens are locked all of a sudden, who are you going to call? Because also your phone is not working. By having some people are designated survivors, I don't want to say that one, but designated like emergency workers, where you can go to like, okay, there's something happening, there's something on scale, there's a crisis, there should be a crisis manager, and that should be a team behind that person he or she, controlling it. So a CEO should never be in crisis mode, the one saying we're going left or right. It should be a crisis manager. And by handling that as a crisis and making sure that you have the right people on staff, then you can also make that transformation, but also the translation to what do I need? And then it's, okay, we have the people, now the processes, what are we going to do? And it's a lot about communication. People always underestimate the power of communication. Also, when you're in crisis, you still have to communicate, because if we as Veeam have been hit, or you as Leaseweb have been hit, we also have to communicate with the chain.
Yep.
Because we're a supply chain for like up and down, but they also have customers. You have to talk to all them and explain what is happening. But do you do that really at like the first minute when you're being hit?
Yeah.
No, most likely you have no clue what is happening at that moment in time. So you have to make sure that you get everyone calm again. So don't panic, that's one of those things. And from there you move on. But then translating that to requirements is, okay, if something happens like that, and that's also what I say to a lot of organizations, do a gamification. Just go in, say, okay, nobody touched any machine anymore. This is the whole thing, everything is locked down, now we're going to survive. Do a tabletop exercise. The requirements will come out there really fast. But also, tell people in the business, it's digital, it's the same as the physical world. So if I ask a business manager, what's your business, what should be done? People will just spit out anything. Okay, we have to do this. So you already have your requirements. But if you look and just ask, like, what should we do? Everyone's like, I don't know. That's why you need a team. So managing that crisis. But then those requirements will come from there, and then you can say, okay, digital, our data is most important.
Yep.
So how fast should we return our data? How fast should we have our services back online? And that's what I said about the RPO and RTO, but it's more in the technical one. Talking about SLAs, PKIs. Also 3 letters, but different meanings in like the business continuity. And by having those, how fast should your business be back online? If you have a website or a store, and within 2 minutes people will move to the competition, that means you only have 2 minutes. But that's different than a hospital where are people at stake for lives. They should shift over right away, within seconds even. And some people are lucky, they can just say, we can just survive for 8 hours. But they are rare now.